my mind.
All right, cool. We're good. Now you're ready to go, dude. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties.
My mind.
Hey,
I was
so
all fucked up. What's up, though?
oh man, hey, glad to be here, man. Thank you.
I'm glad you're here too, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. Okay, so let me turn this. This is Rasar,
Yeah.
of the Lique, also of your own success and shit as a solo artist, and you're in the Vegas music scene.
Yeah.
You're one, in my opinion, one of the best in the city. How long have you been in Vegas?
Thank you. 5 years.
From the Bay.
Bay Area is family. Sacramento is where I'm from originally. Yeah, man, and thank you, man. I've been aware of you for most of the time I've been here. You're a bit of an anomaly. you're
I don't know what that
you're
means.
you're this entity that exists. It's like, oh yeah, there's like and then there's Ekoh. It's like, and
I don't really feel like that.
yeah, man. And I saw a lot of your shows on the low. One thing I like about us coming to this point right here, I know I'm supposed to intro myself a little more, but getting to this point is I watched you and I didn't, a lot of times people like buddy up to you and be like, yo man, can I get in free? Which I love getting comped. But I didn't do the, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't do that thing, which I think is common practice, to like see somebody who's doing it and they're already established and they're just, like, oh, especially in raps, like, yo, man, like, let me get your number. Like I didn't do that. I just went and watched you, and I haven't done that for many people. Like I saw you at Vinyl several times, like 3 or 4 years ago, and I didn't tell anybody I was gonna be there, and I didn't announce it. I just had to see it. I kind of enjoyed seeing someone who just had their own world that I could just like walk into, and the pressure was off me. Like, no, a few people might have known who I was, but it wasn't like I could just go to your show and watch you do your thing, and
Yeah.
it was very educational. One thing I always notice is that you and I have different approaches, but I knew immediately from the first time I saw your show that we're cut from a similar cloth, and we probably have some of the same influences, and just at least our what inspired us, I think, is very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, by the time you got here, if you got here 5 years ago, I'd already left the scene pretty
Right.
much, because I left
Yeah.
because I wasn't getting any love there, and it was just felt kind of counterproductive for me to try so hard to be accepted by people who didn't really give a fuck.
Mm.
Or, it's just really hard coming up. I was talking about this the other day. Starting off is so hard. There's a level from, the ground to establishing something, establishing a sound, and establishing a fan base and all that kind of stuff that's so fucking hard. And
Yeah.
I really can't. I tried thinking. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm sure you've been doing it longer.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
If somebody would have said it's going to take 10 years of working really fucking hard all the time, I don't know. I might have tried something else, maybe. I don't know. But I never thought it's going to take what it takes. You know what I mean? Naivety is a gift.
Yes. That's somebody
You know what I
quoted him
mean?
on that. Somebody that's a tagline right there, man. It kind of reminds me, the Leak has a song called Soul for You, which features Cameron Calloway out of Vegas. And in the first verse, I may misquote myself, but I think the line is something to the effect of I would have told my younger self. I'm just gonna paraphrase myself instead of trying to say the line, but I would have told my younger self to not maybe do this. If I could, step back, like,
Yeah.
like I'm glad I did, and the highs end up being totally worth it,
Yeah.
But I was like, man. But see, I will say on the other side, I was fortunate enough to have some mentors early on. Like I had a few OGs kind of bring me in, so like they did kind of warn me of the pitfalls, and they were having me study copyright law when I was like 16 and stuff. So not that
That's crazy.
and God, there's this book called like This Business of Music, which there's like several editions. Also a book called Something That Changed My Mind. And I know that, I see you've opened for Tech Nine several times. I had the opportunity to open for him once back in 05, and that was a blessing, man. I was still a kid, man. It was like that was not one of my first shows, but around that time, Tech Nine is a huge inspiration to like all of us independent MCs, and he literally laid out the blueprint and tells you every step of the way pretty much what he's doing. I would say around that time I read a book called I Don't Need a Record Deal by Danielle Dale Schwartz, and that book changed my life.
In 2005?
2005, between reading that book and getting into Tech Nine, I was like, oh, okay. Well, this is the long run. You gotta like maneuver. You can't necessarily focus on getting on radio, on MTV, or whatever the blogs are. Well, blogs weren't even a thing in 2005 like that.
They're not a thing now. We've kind of watched them become a thing and then like die out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true, man.
But that's some ahead of the curve type shit, because even in 2005, the thought was get a record deal.
Yes.
Nobody was talking. Now everybody's talking about do it independent. You don't need a record deal. You can make it on your own. But digital music has made it that way. Digital music changed the landscape completely, and it put the power back into the artist's hands.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, I think iTunes actually dropped that year. So like we weren't even like, just to take it back where we were at that time, man.
But to have that sort of insight then, that, I mean, I should probably check that book out myself.
Oh, bro, man, it's one of those ones where I still got to go back. I still own it. It's dilapidated, so I don't know if you want my copy, but yeah, it's
I'll grab it on the Kindle. I don't read on anything but the Kindle now.
Oh, okay. Next wave with it. All right.
I always read at night. Yeah. And so I read at night in my bed, and the girl's sleeping, so I have to I can't read a regular book. I still read like comics that are if I'm gonna read something that's actual paper, because they haven't figured that out on Kindle yet. And I don't think they will. Yeah, anytime soon.
They're like the tradition of it.
But no, I talking about the Tech Nine thing. I remember listening to Tech Nine coming up, and that was for me the same thing. I remember the first time I saw Tech Nine was on a commercial.
Oh,
on TV.
FTI.
Remember the FTI commercials? Yeah. And just thinking, what the fuck am I? What is this? And following that entire thing, the entire independent movement and all that kind of shit. And even when I was coming up, I was still thinking, oh, you need to have a record deal. Record deal, do this. Even up until 6 months ago, I still kind of thought, record deal would be nice. And then I had a little crash course in what it would be like, and fuck that.
Yeah. For you.
Unless you have the greatest deal in front of you, unless you're a celebrity, I guess is what it is. That's how it seems. If you're a celebrity, then get a record deal, because the music, you don't give a fuck really about it. That's not where you're going to be making your money. No. When you talk about people like all the new wave rappers, is most of your shit's not coming from your record sales. Most of it's coming from live performances anyways, and a lot of people want to see you live because you're a celebrity. You're not necessarily, you know what I mean?
An artist first. It's more of the personality, the brand.
Yeah.
I think, and you brought a few things to mind with all of that too, about how like everything about like the South, talk about being a bit of ahead of the curve. I think the South, there was all the artists I think really started out selling tapes out the trunk. We always heard that in the raps. But
remember that Slim Thug was the first person
that's
I really
what I was
heard
about Swisher House, bro. Like that's exactly like Paul Wow, Chameleonaire, all those cats, like those dudes, and UGK. I mean, they've been signed. I think they were signed to Jive like in '92, but like, in the '80s, just like E40 in the Clique, they mastered that. Like, we just do it out of trunk. I'm gonna sell, or like even like I know I'm jumping regions, but to stay South, Ludacris, he's considered one of the top, mainstream artists, at least of the first decade of this century. But he even said it on that song called "Gossip Folks" with Missy. He sold 50,000 of his independent product. It was called
You sell 50,000 records out of your trunk, you were balling.
50,000, no record deal, and it wasn't this industry plant thing where it's like, yeah, we'll like pretend. Like, it was like, no, like he did have the advantage. He was a radio personality in Atlanta named, I think, Chris Lover or something like that. But still,
he was a radio DJ.
He was like a premier.
You are such a wealth of knowledge, of hip hop knowledge,
bro. We're gonna nerd out today, man.
Yeah,
yeah, man. So I would say that those guys though, when you talked about Slim Thug, that's an example of like, we don't need you. We just sold 200,000 copies by ourselves. We're gonna step to you and present our package to you, which I think now is what's been going on over the last, I would say decade, but definitely last like 5 to 8 years, really strongly. Like
Yeah.
build up your brand, do whatever, and then come to the table negotiating. Whereas it used to always, that seems like no brainer now, but the majority of this time has always been like, you do a demo. That was the thing. Or back in the day, you'd be on Star Search.
Somebody needs to find me. I need to get discovered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone will save you.
Well, labels don't discover anybody now. There is no fucking A&R department. There is no artist development. There is no we're gonna figure out your sound and figure out everything. And it's just like any other brand. You know what I mean? If you start selling energy drinks, you're gonna start selling it, and until you start selling enough on your own, building your own brand, making your own marketing, finding your own demographic, and selling to it and making a big profit, then Coca-Cola is going to be like, okay, what's up? You did all the footwork. Now we can take this and we can really blow it up.
A swoop one time, man. And
but even now, if you build yourself up and you get to a point, then a label is going to come in and say, okay, well, we think we can do this better than you, but you've already done all the work. So let us step in and then fuck everything up, or we can shelf you, or we can just never come to agreements on shit. And then you have a bunch of people that don't make music, only look at numbers, trying to tell you what songs you should put out, what you should do, what your fan base is going to react to, how they are going to like shit. And dude, I was dealing with this shit firsthand of people trying to tell me what songs to put out and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm good. I don't want it.
But you had some brushes. I think obviously, you've been building the brand for some time, but obviously I'm aware in the last year or so, especially, I forget the documentary, but they picked up because you had that thing that was associated with the young ladies.
Oh, yeah. The Audrey and Daisy.
Right. I know that definitely had to, when you start doing things like that, I think that people really start paying attention because you're making more of a social impact. And that's where, not that you hadn't before, but I think those are sort of things where I think labels start paying a little more attention, like because you're embedding yourself into current issues and culture at that point, as opposed to a lot of times it's not enough just to be an artist. I think that's one of the delusions that many of us are still dealing with the programming of, is the majority of our lives, at least where we came from, is like you said, like they come in and they make you almost, and it's like, no, you have to, make yourself. But it's very interesting to hear about how like the numbers affect everything. Kind of
social media numbers.
Man, I remember that wasn't a thing. I remember that not even, I'm not even that old, but I'm definitely an OG. I mean, when I go to the gym, like now the kids call me OG, or I realize now the guys look like grown men. I look at them as kids. So I realize I'm a little older than I thought I was. But, I'm still like, I'm like still old enough I'm still young enough to still like want to do this. You know what I'm saying? But
still got the fire.
Yeah,
still got the passion.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still a little reckless.
It's just a little bit there. But it's, but like you said, you're talking about like naivety being a gift.
Yeah.
That is less sexy. The knowingness is not sexy
not at all.
Anyone that's trying to acquire your goods. I think that's worked against me over the years. And I'm not looking for an excuse to be like, oh, well, my music's so great that everyone would love it. But I do think that, based on the discussions I've been in, not because I've necessarily been rude, but just like I've been told, like I'm pretty straightforward. I've never heard the word cutthroat, but just kind of cold. I didn't realize I was an introvert until about 3 or 4 years ago. So it's just being like super introvert.
But before that, you thought...
I thought I was extroverted. I really did. I didn't even.
What was the turning point?
Honestly, I took what they call it's that Briggs personality test, where there's like 16 different personality types that most people fall into.
Does it give you like F9 3Q or something like
F9?
So, like a weird letter number combination? Is that what that test is?
There is an acronym. There's like different letters and initials. So like, for instance, I'm an INTP.
See, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. I took that. I don't remember what I was, but it was spot on.
Yeah. And like, you probably like, it takes a while.
Yeah.
It's not just like this, like I'm a Taurus, therefore I do this. Which that's not even a slight at astrology. I got into that too and realized that stuff, the more into it you can get into that stuff's pretty accurate.
Are you a Taurus?
I am not a Taurus. That was actually me being I'm actually a Sagittarius.
Okay.
Which perfect example of how these personality tests and things can tell you a lot about yourself, and like they're actually real. Like I was like, get out of here, that whole astrology thing. And then like I really started looking up Sagittarius. What's like, well, what does a Sagittarius usually like to do? It's a fire sign, usually in their heads a lot. They are usually public speakers or entertainers, but ironically like to be left alone. They tend to overthink. That's a weakness. Also tend to be into philosophy, religion, politics, love reading, writing. These are all of my things.
Yeah.
But if you look at the
You're
other
like,
things,
holy fuck, you're reading my mail.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's eerie, man. And especially if you get like very specific about your individual natal chart with your specific date and the time you were born. It's like, dude.
That's the one. The only ones that I've looked at that I can honestly say have been kind of spot on are the ones where you have to give the time, and it's where your moon was in the 7th house of whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, but when I took the personality, this is the one that tells you how you are in a job, how you are as a parent, how you are in a relationship, and all those kinds of things. And I had my girlfriend take it as well, and it's straight up to a fucking T.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, those
hold on. So it took you reading that to say, oh, I am an introvert.
Yeah, dude, like the I in that, I was like, it was kind of weird. I was like, introverted. I don't know, because, you know, obviously as people will see from this, like I like to talk. And, you know, this is what we do. We're rappers. We talk. And all the people who've been close friends of mine know that I'll talk your ear off. We'll talk for 8 hours and I'll listen to you too. And we'll go back and forth. So I thought that, or like, you know, I was a jock, but I was like an all around jock. Like I played basketball throughout high school, most of high school. And so I was very popular, which that's one thing. I know a lot of people hated high school. I loved high school.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought it was
great.
I
think it's cool to hate high school.
Yeah.
It's cool to say high school sucked for me.
Right.
Whatever.
And one could even say, well, it's easy for you to like high school. You were popular. I mean, I had some pretty hard times too, but I was involved in different things. Like I hung out with the preps, I hung out with the jocks, but also like I hung out with like the skaters. I hung out, you know, it was segregated more than people wanted to acknowledge. There was like the Latino section, there was the black kids, and there was all kinds. I hung out with everybody, and sometimes I would just go to the library and no one knew where I was. So like I really realized like I just saw the full. I was in student government. I was really in the school situation. I just loved it. But that being said, because I was so involved and I had friends, and then like my whole career has been like, you know, this thing is like, look at me. It's an attention-based economy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that all this projection doesn't really speak to who I truly am. Even if I'm being honest publicly, I didn't realize it. 90% of the time, I would rather be left alone. I don't pick up the phone. Like, I like reading. If no one walks in, I just like, you know what I'm saying? I'm super sensitive. Like when, not necessarily like I'm easily offended. I mean like
energy.
Yeah. When I walk in, I hear what people's, not that I'm necessarily, I believe we do have ESP. I have a line about that in a Lique song. I believe that we all have ESP, just some of us tap into it a little bit more sometimes. I had someone show me in high school what ESP was. I was like, whoa.
No shit.
I didn't, a guy literally read my mind, and I didn't even ask for this. So like ever since then, I've been convinced. But that being said, you know, just super sensitive because in this, you know, this whole thing being about mental health, I think that I'm an empath too, which I don't remember if that's necessarily in the Briggs test, but
yeah, I don't think so.
An empath, man, you know, gotta go for the feels, man. I'm not necessarily like super emotional all the time, but I would say my emotional intelligence is pretty high into the level that I can read the moment more than I want to.
It's a really good way to put that. I feel like self-awareness is something a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
And not only of just the situation you're in, but reading your audience, not like the audience listening, but the audience of a room that you're in. You know what I mean? Reading the room, the conversation, which way, how it's going. Just, you know, I can see, you know, people think if you're social and if you're in a social situation, you're able to be a social butterfly, that means you can't be introverted and shit like that. But with me, I've gotten worse the older I've gotten.
Yeah.
in with people because I just don't. I know I don't want to talk, and that'll be if there's one downfall in my career, it'll be that I don't go to I don't conversate. I don't build. I don't network. I just like to do what the fuck I want to do. People like, hey, what's your dream collab? I don't have one, man. I don't.
Wow.
I like making music with my friends.
Yeah.
That's it. That makes me happy. And if the vibe's right, like that's awesome.
Simple as that.
I'm not the person that wants to have crazy collabs and all kinds of shit like that. When my girlfriend's gone out of town, she left for like 5 days a few weeks ago, and I didn't see one human being for 5 days because I just like doing what I do. I like writing.
Yeah.
And especially when you're an artist, a lot of what you do is a very solitary thing. These songs don't write themselves. It's a lot of time spent alone, a lot of time challenging yourself and figuring out different ways to say things you want to say, digging deeper into who am I? What do I like? What am I into? And the longer I've written songs, the more I've found out about myself.
Yes.
And I think that's just with writing in general, but with writing songs for me, because you can do so much more, and I can hit so many different, sections of this is how I feel when I'm happy. This is what I feel when I'm, want to party. This is how I feel when I'm down. This is how I feel with a breakup. I can hit every single different aspect of my own personality and then kind of look back and read it back to myself and see, oh, that's who I am. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, you're speaking the gospel here, man. Honestly, you remind me of Evidence, shout out Dilated Peoples. He said, my lyrics take care of me, they therapy. That's what you're describing right here, man. And even you talking about the process of you writing a song reminds me of maybe why I didn't necessarily realize I was an introvert, because I'm sure you can deeply relate to this. Is you're right. We isolate ourselves to do this, but at the same time, when you really give yourself over to the craft, you've created this universe. Like you have this Ekoh world. And I think that you probably do things to express yourself, but also you can't help but be aware of your audience. Even if you're not like pandering, after a while, like what people expect of you, or like what people need to hear, even if it's what it means for you. I'm never gonna say I never write for anybody. I do write for somebody. I hope that someone's touched or laughs or something like that. And so I don't know, maybe because I'm just so in my head so much, I thought that I didn't think I was so introverted because I got this whole world that's super exciting to have your imagination flowing. So I didn't realize how isolated it was because I see everything when I write.
Well, you also don't feel alone.
Right.
You don't feel like you're alone because you're entertained.
Right.
And there's such a double-edged sword with anything creative as well, especially when you start to do it full time or you do it a lot, that it's, you do this for fun. And it's like, so you get this idea that it's not work, because it still is work. You still have to be disciplined. You have to sit down. You have to write. You have to rewrite. You have to look through things. You have to look through production. You have to find new ideas. You have to, if you make, the kind of music you make is staying up on current issues, staying up on your philosophy, staying up on what you believe and what's going on in the world. If you're me, staying up on, what's happening in pop culture, you know what I mean? Because that's a big part of my career, is commenting on what's going on pop culture wise. You know what I mean? I know that's something, my fans start to expect is, commenting on what's the latest shit that's going on, what's happening. And, it doesn't feel like you're alone because you're always distracted. You always have something going on. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
Yes.
Right?
Dude, that's a major distinction.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Being alone and loneliness, not necessarily the same thing, although I think both of us admit we've experienced loneliness for sure.
Oh, yeah, in a huge way.
But being alone can also be extremely rewarding, refreshing, and helps you get clear on things, and it can be empowering. I think also it can add value not only to yourself but also to your circle, because when you come back, especially, I think that is the difference between introvert and extrovert, is that extroverts, if you could put it simply, is that introverts get energy from being alone, extroverts get energy from other people, being around other people. And so
that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, like you can read all these like articles and books and watch videos, and then once I saw that, I was like, oh,
Yeah, that
like,
makes sense. I
yeah,
get it.
because it's super daunting to figure out what's my personality about. Because it can be confusing because there's all these layers. Like, because you sound like an introvert, and I've interacted with you, and you seem somewhat like an introvert. But then there's also ambiverts, which I think a lot of us artists,
What is that?
it's essentially someone who's both extroverted and introverted. And so I know some people like that. It's different from an introvert who has, like, for instance, myself, has a tendency to be very outgoing when I'm putting on, like, for the, like, I need to be the politician, like, hey, everyone, how's it going? Like,
Yeah.
you gotta, like, shake hands and take pictures and all that stuff. You gotta, like, I don't dislike it, but you gotta just gravitate towards that moment. But there are people who naturally just, they don't just do it for special occasions. Like, they naturally, like, they'll go out and then, like, they're both. It's they're a little bit in between. It's a little hard to tell, but extroverts,
Like a day walker.
oh man, it's unbelievable. I mean, I got one in my band. We're brothers, but we're totally different. Like, he has to go to the bar and hang out, and if there's like right before we're about to go on, he's like meeting people. Do you think he's known them for 10 years?
Yeah.
That gets him so pumped for the show. Where'd Rasar go? I disappear.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm ready to go. I'm ready but then I give people the best show I can if I can disappear. But he can't play right unless he's like got a vibe.
Yeah,
So
he's got to get it. Well, that's when I used to do a lot of stuff with Chemist, with Che. He's extreme extrovert. He has to have people around. He has to be doing something. You know what I mean? He always has to have someone at his house or somebody with him or somebody to hang out with or something to do.
Yeah.
And I come off looking like a dick because
Yeah.
I don't want to fucking hang out with you. I don't want to get to know, especially when I'm playing shows, and it'll blow people's minds because when I'm on stage, I am a completely different person, 100% than I am off stage.
Surely.
Because it's a different thing. I'm there to do a different, I don't even want to say a job, but I'm just there to do a different task. And I like presenting my music in the best way possible because I want people to see it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And even I like when people see people on social media be, I like Cardi B, her personality. I just get her. I'm like, it's an act.
Huh.
And they're like, no, dude, that's her. Like every time, I'm like, no, every time the camera's on, yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I do the same thing. When the camera's on, it's still me, but it's me times 10.
Yes.
Because I'm trying to fucking entertain.
Right.
My whole thing, and it's not fake. It's, dude, what I want to be able to do is entertain people. I want to be able to distract people from their normal everyday bullshit, whether it's through music or through the visuals or through doing a podcast or whatever it is. I just want to be able to entertain people.
Yeah.
And so if you have to, push it up a notch in order to be entertaining, but you can also understand that if I met Cardi B, this bitch is going to be, Cardi B.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Ow. Whatever.
Like, that's the image. And I respect that. I get it. People will look at, oh, that's fake. I don't think it's fake. I think it's just understand what it is.
Super turned up.
Yeah.
All the way turned up, man. And it might be where she's from too, being from the South Bronx, being from the Bronx, that's another thing. I don't know. Are you originally from Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Okay. Vegas has its own vibe. It's its own thing. Me being an outsider.
Vegas doesn't know what the fuck it is.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Vegas, I'll tell you what, I'm an outsider forever. Like, I live here, and that's why I just went back to Sac, and I realized, I told my parents too, I was like, Sacramento's my home. I live in Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas, and it's been good to me. But I have this perspective where I'm able to see a little bit about, there's just a certain thing to Vegas. There's a certain flavor that kind of switches. But when you notice that, you've done so much traveling, man. You've done so much touring. Bro.
I haven't done that much.
Dude, I've seen your dates. I've seen, at least in the last year or two, like, I've seen you.
I've done a little more.
You've been getting out there, man. Even back to the Cage thing, which I think was like 3 years ago or something like that. It looked like you were on like 25 dates or something.
Yeah, I made it 4 and I left.
Aha. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. There's social media. There's reality. Okay. Yeah. Oh,
I think maybe I didn't announce that I left.
Ah, okay.
If I would have, it would have been, I didn't want to have any beef.
Yeah. Just kept it simple, kept it moving.
Yeah.
Okay, but more recently, though, obviously,
Yeah.
Mickey Avalon, I always want to call him, the other name I want to call him correct, Dirt Nasty.
Yeah.
I won't call him the OG name, but That was like a good like 15, 20 days.
That was like
something
20 days, yeah.
And those were, you weren't playing around either. And I see you get these like, I don't know if you were like in Iowa when or Nebraska or something, like you get these, so I mean, but the point is you've gotten around, you've got to see, and you notice all these different towns have their different vibes. And that's one thing relating back to Carter B, like New York is really intense. Like,
yeah, it is.
It's just,
I can't do New York.
I can't do it either, man. And that's an unpopular opinion.
No, New York, the idea of New York is great. I like New York from the outside. I'm way too anxious. I'm way too, just same thing. I'm way too much of an introvert. I'm way too, I have too much shit going on in my head. I can't, New York is like what it's like in my fucking head. You know what I mean? So going there just pulls out everything. It's congested. There's people everywhere. There's shit going on, which is awesome. I'm glad it exists. I'm glad it's there. It doesn't, for my personality, I needed to get the fuck out of there. Dude, as soon as I was there.
It's funny that we arguably wouldn't be doing what we're most known for doing if it wasn't for New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the mother place. But like when I go there, I always have to have like a specific reason. It's just super intense. Everything's fast. They're pushing you out of the way. And I came up, the first time I went was 2014, but I went there again in 2015. And I came up with the motto for New York. It was, New York, just don't die. And, that was my whole thing. It was just like, man, you could, I don't know, you could fall off, you get pushed in the subway, man. Like people drive super crazy.
Have you ever driven there?
I have. In the van.
It's fucking horrifying.
Oh, bro.
You had a van too? I had a rental car and it was fucking horrifying. I would never drive there with a van.
We maneuvered a 15.
Everybody knows
van.
what the fuck they're doing except for you.
Yes.
It's like, have you ever worked in a restaurant?
For a day, yes.
Okay. You know how you felt?
Yeah.
That's how it feels.
Everything was just too fast.
Everybody else knows what's going on. You just feel like you're in the way all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody else knows what's going on. They're kind of pissed off that you're there, but they don't actually mind you being there, but just get the fuck out of my way sort of thing. That's exactly what it feels like being in New York.
That's the perfect analogy. I've actually never heard a better analogy. And I have an obsession with New York, even though I don't care for being there all the time. So many things, great things.
It's a fascinating city.
It really is. And for the arts, it's one of the greatest places you could go.
Yeah.
There's the culture there, at least what it was. I know it was being deeply gentrified like so many other places are.
Yeah.
But it's still got a lot of its flavor. So, I mean, super thankful for New York. I don't know if I don't think I could live there anyway because it's very expensive. But
super expensive. Speaking of your 15-passenger van.
Yeah.
All right, you talk about, so you started out as a solo artist.
Correct.
Freestyle battles?
Man, I've been in those. Wow, man. When I first started, I started rapping in 1999. So this is my 20th anniversary as of this February.
Whew.
Yeah, man. It's been quite a journey. And I would say I started really taking it. I took it seriously then because, see, here's the deal. Back then, I knew for sure I was going to be the next adolescent star. I knew it. I was good. And this was still, you get signed to a record deal. I went down to KSFM 102.5. Shout out to Tony Tecate, man. That's OG stuff right there, man. But also, anybody from Sacramento will know what's up. But I went right down there and said, I went to the front desk receptionist at an early age, and I asked them, who do I talk to about getting a record deal? I thought that's how you did it.
Naivety is a gift.
You said it, man. Like, I went right down to the radio station, and it was a gift because it was like the balls on this kid. Like, because of that, somebody came out and kind of humored me as this little kid. And, I was a little tall for my age, but still, I was a youngster. And, they took me back there with my mom and everything. And, like, I was like, oh, my God, there's all these death row plaques on the wall and stuff. I got to go by the studio. I was like, oh, man. I'm hearing voices I recognize.
It's happening.
Yeah. I thought I was about to get signed, bro. And I remember this guy named T-Roy sat me down and he asked me, and he was just an intern. I thought he was the dude. He was just an 18-year-old intern,
Yeah.
But, I was just excited. And, that was actually some of my first recording experiences. I let him down by being 30 minutes late. And he also got an eyebrow piercing that night. So he was still a kid too, but he also lectured me about being late. So I learned early on. But I would say freestyle battle. I did do some battles actually on that same radio station. about 3 years later, which was a lifetime back then. You know, you're a youngster, you only been on the planet so long. 3 years was a lifetime. I did do that in high school. I started doing that. I didn't really do too many face-to-face battles. I was like really a songwriter first and foremost, but I was like recording demos by the time I was like 15 or 16, like going to Oakland and recording.
We had a lot of buzz in Sacramento.
Yes.
I even remember, I think I played with, with Living Legends?
Oh man. Living Legends.
I think maybe I opened for them or some shit like that.
Living Legends is
all I remember is Grouch coming up to you after the show.
Yeah.
Like, yo, what's up?
Yo. And I remember, you took that picture of us too. Thank you, by the way. I didn't even really, here's the thing. I knew who you were, but we didn't really know each other like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't go like, yo, take this picture of me, bro. It was like, and not that you said that, but like, I remember like wanting to avoid to ask you because it was like, man, I mean, you should be in the picture or something, but it was also like, I was trying to get this Grouch picture.
Yeah.
And I was like, kind of like, is there anybody? And then you were just like, yeah, man, I'll take it. I was like, wow, that's cool. Cause I'm like, man, like we could all be taking a picture right now. And no, that was we saw Living Legends at Brooklyn Bowl. This was about 2 or 3 years ago. And Grouch and I go back about 10 years now. But I'm not gonna not like for instance, Sage Francis. Like I didn't know Grouch like that. It's like I got put on the bill several times.
I mean, that's kind of how I know Sage.
Okay, but I didn't have
hung
like
out a couple, maybe once.
See, we wouldn't hang out. He didn't have my number. He wasn't my MySpace friend or anything like that. Like
I
wasn't
watched
on
like what I watched. Did I watch a Mayweather fight? I think I watched a Mayweather fight with Sage.
Really?
Random as fuck.
Like
so random.
Just
he was playing a show in Vegas, and it just happened to be. It was one of the big Mayweather fights. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Man, don't tell me it was Pacquiao.
It might have been Pacquiao.
That was 2015. That was May 2015. Because
that was it.
Dude, yeah, because I was with Butterscotch in Sacramento when we were watching the fight too.
Yeah.
I'm not even like a boxing fan like that, but like you had.
I'm not really. I know he's not really, but it was one of those just cultural things that everybody kind of wanted to be a part of and just fucking watch, and then it was boring.
Yeah, because a lot of us who didn't really understand boxing, it's like, oh man, he's boring. It's like, no, he's like an excellent defensive boxer, but that's not exciting. And so I think a lot of us got taught that day, because I grew up when, I think we're not too far apart. I think I'm a few years older than you, but you remember Mike Tyson like as a thing.
Yeah.
Like now he's just like this fun, friendly, soft,
it's kind of a joke of himself now.
It's like, oh, it's Mike Tyson. When
you were growing up, Mike Tyson was the baddest motherfucker alive.
Mike Tyson instilled fear in a nation.
There's never better shit talking ever made ever in the history of ever.
I want to eat his kids. I want to he was like serious.
I'm
he was
fuck
like,
you till you love me. Yeah.
Yes. He said some wild shit. Like, bro, I mean, I saw the Tyson. I saw the Evander Holyfield Tyson fight, the infamous one.
Yeah.
I remember
ear biting.
Yeah. It was my homie's birthday. Shout out to Victor Kim, wherever you are, bro. I haven't talked to you in a few years, but Victor Kim.
So that's 96.
Yeah. It might be 97.
Wait, Tupac died 96?
He died 96, September 96.
That was the same night as the fight.
That was the Selden fight. That was a Tyson fight.
Oh, that wasn't the Holyfield one?
Holyfield.
My bad.
Yeah. No, you're
fact check me.
Yeah. No, man. The Selden fight, which was in Vegas at the MGM Grand. That was the one where Tyson. I forgot Tyson was in town. They were like on screen together, but no. The Holyfield one was the following. It was July. Because I remember it was my homie's birthday, and because I had already moved away, so it was like a big deal that we had time in the summer that I could go do a sleepover or whatever. And I remember watching. I'm gonna admit, I called it. No one saw it in the house but me. I just remember just being like, something was weird, and I was like,
"Do you buy this?"
I said it. I said it, and I thought I couldn't believe I said it, and it was like, nah, and it was like, yo, like. We'll never. I hope we never see nothing like that again.
Life-changing cultural shit right there,
dude. Like there was no preparation. Mike Tyson was something else, man. And like, that's just an example of just like. So that's what we were spoiled with, just someone brute force.
Yeah.
Will beat you down, possibly kill you. And so I think that when we saw the Mayweather fight, it was like, Oh yeah, it's a science. It's not all.
It's not all flash.
Yeah,
It's not a Michael Bay movie.
Exactly, man. But
So okay, so
Sacramento.
you were just writing songs.
Hmm.
You were making buzz.
Yeah, yeah. I would say I a big launching pad would be I started doing open mics in '04. I'd already been doing rap for 5 years at that point. And then I met several people that ended up being very important in my life. I met a couple of my mentors who actually I just saw one. Shout out Miss Mariana, shout out Old Ghost. Those people took me under their wing. They were already like fixtures in the hip hop scene. They were OGs. They showed me like what the local magazines were. They told me about 12's Wax, which was like a vinyl store that was nearby. They took me to the hip hop clothing stores and they told me about all the acts that I wasn't aware of and put me on some of my first like real hip hop shows. I remember I feel like I was like really christened into the Sacramento hip hop scene on January 8th, 2005 at this place called the Ocean Lounge, which doesn't even exist anymore. And it was like the alumni and all these things that probably don't even you'd have to really be Sacramento to know about these things, but it was an excellent thing. And I was like, wow. Like I saw idols right there. Like to this day, there's dude named M.I. Jesus, who's still a good friend of mine. And I did the way he took over the stage. And it was just like, wow, I'm in this. I'm a part of this. And I only did like 2 songs and I felt great. I felt like,
Yeah.
and you know, the longer you go in this, you start taking things for granted, even though you don't want to. You know, you have to remember those moments. Remember when you were just excited to do like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and that meant the world to you, and you saw like $5 or nothing. You know, you saw like 20. I remember getting paid like $20. You know, and being happy about it.
Just happy to be there.
You know, it was, dude. I was in. I was all the way in, man. And so I went from the nobody in 1 year, no, in 9 months. Now, MySpace helped me a lot. I can't skip MySpace.
Okay.
MySpace was super instrumental, man, because that's when I started to expand. This dude produced for me in Australia. And, you know, MySpace, anybody remembers, man.
I missed the MySpace days completely.
Ooh, man. Like,
I was doing a lot of drugs in those days. I just totally went off the map.
You missed it. Okay, I had to be clear. I had to make sure you weren't saying you missed it or you missed it.
No, I missed that shit.
Ooh, man, you would have destroyed MySpace.
I wasn't even making music then.
2004. Yeah, it's been 10 years. So you started in 2009, 8?
2009.
You started rapping?
Yeah.
You started rapping in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, dude. You rap like you've been rapping longer than that, but
10 years feels like a long fucking time.
yeah. I mean, it also depends how many reps you're getting in, you know.
That's very true.
Because like your 10 years is way more intense than a lot of other 10 years I've seen. Like it's like I started playing basketball again. Like for instance, I've been playing basketball since the 90s, but I stopped playing for several years and I feel like I just learned how to play the game. And only in the last like 5 months have I really, and I got a gym membership and now I'm there like 2-3 days a week and I study it. Before this, I was watching like a bunch of recap stuff on the NBA and I play 2K every day. Yeah. So I feel like I fell back in love with it. So I've been playing basketball for like nearly 25 years, but there's a huge gap there.
In between,
so like I'm not
consecutive.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that.
So I would say much like that, like your career is like that. Like,
well, it's weird when you do something for a long time and then you stop and then you go back to it years later and you go back to it and your mind is different. The way you think about it is different.
Yes.
I had the same sort of thing with skateboarding. When I go back to skateboarding and I think about it differently. Like, oh, this trick should be easy. It's just like, oh, you just have to do this, you know? But when I was younger, it just didn't fucking connect for some reason. It just didn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Was that a part of your hip hop connection? I guess I could stop there because I know a lot of my friends who did skate. I wasn't a skater, but I knew a lot of skaters. And from what I understand, like, especially, I think this is past VHS time, but I don't know if they still have those skate videos.
Oh,
hip hop was an instrumental part, at least in the 90s and early 2000s.
Absolutely.
Did you experienced that?
Yeah, skating was my childhood. Like that was everything. Skating was everything to me. And it was a weird dynamic though, because when I first got into skating, it was when hip hop was big in skating. There was like the Shorties crew, was like Chad Muska was killing it and he was doing his thing and he was always super hip hop influenced and like Peter Smolik and all these dudes that were just really hardcore into the hip hop scene. There were also skaters, wore baggy clothes and shit like that. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, it went to skinny jeans and Iron Maiden and
Interesting.
like classic rock shit.
Wow.
Like almost overnight. I don't know what the fuck happened.
That's interesting.
And it wasn't a bad thing because I I like that music too. I grew up on hip hop and like pop punk music and rock music. I was never, that's like where I lived. And that's
pop punk. Are we talking Blink 182?
We're talking like Blink 182, something corporate.
Yellow
card.
Is that?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I'm a sucker for like old emo shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bayside and all kinds of stuff like that. AFI.
I was wondering. I saw that. I was like, who is that?
Yeah, it's Davey Havoc. AFI is like all-time favorite. So skating was instrumental in everything. But I remember when I don't know if you had this in your high school, but there was like skaters versus the rollerbladers.
Did not have that.
This is a big thing when I was growing up.
That was the thing.
Skaters hated fucking rollerbladers. Rollerbladers hated skaters. I don't even know if rollerblading is still really a thing.
I haven't seen it.
All the dudes who bladed smoked weed and listened to hip hop music. And those are my people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's when I discovered the first hip hop artists I discovered were Tupac, Jedi Mind Tricks, Swollen Members, and Necro, and Sage Francis. That was my introduction to hip hop.
Hard. It was all hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Tupac, the first song I ever heard from Tupac was My Block.
Oh, okay. A little more introspective.
Yeah, and it's still one of my favorite songs of all time. And then right after that, I heard Thug's Mansion.
Yeah. So you got that. That's the thing with Pac. He'll give you both sides.
And yeah, I mean, those are still my favorite Tupac. My favorite Tupac side is the introspective.
Then Me Against the World must be a very high on you for like in terms of all of his albums.
Better Days was, but that's post. But
that's the era you got in. Better Days. Yeah. I mean, the song I love on there is it was actually also on this album that came out. See, Suge Knight that's a whole other discussion, but he's an interesting character. As we all know, this album, and I'm bringing it back to your point, we're not going to get off this skating. 2001, as we know, was the seminal Dr. Dre album from 1999 that changed everything and was like the benchmark for like the sonic level of hip hop. Like, that was the first time I had ever seen people nerd out about the engineering of something. And so to take all of that, it was called 2001 because the album, I remember anticipating it, and it was supposed to be called Chronic 2000 because that was his whole thing. Like the year 2000 was such a big thing. And then to spite him, the Row at the time, Suge Knight actually, the Row, because they had to get real legal. Just like Murder Inc. became the Ink for a little while.
Yeah.
Suge released Chronic 2000 the same year that Chronic 2000 was supposed to come out. So then they had to change it to 2001. And he did that he just threw together a compilation.
For no fucking reason at all.
Just
to throw shade.
Just to throw his vibe off. And he had enough money enough to still actually push it, get it in stores. And there was a song on there, the Pac song, Who Do You Believe In?
Yeah.
And that song is so powerful to me. What I didn't realize is that song is a Jamiroquai track.
Really?
Dude, the beat on that, because that bass line.
I used to fucking love Jamiroquai.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, man, you got to connect with my homie, Matt Codina, who's actually I'm getting excited. My first time I ever rapped, May 1999. Matt Codina is the only dude that stuck with me in the talent show. Forever love you for that, bro. 2 other guys dropped out on me.
I wish I remembered dates the way you remember them.
He was a man of integrity, man.
I couldn't tell you the first time I wrote, the first time I did anything.
Yeah?
My memory is dusted.
That's one of my, we've all got our, you've got all these superheroes. That's maybe my superhero thing is that
you have impeccable memory.
Pretty much. That's kind of my thing. And it's freakish to the point I don't think about it, but I think it's like a tick where I say the date or the month all the time. I don't realize until I hang around the homies and they're like, dude, why do you know that it was February 4th? Or, stuff like that, But I don't know. Part of the reason was I don't remember being obsessed with dates until when I got into hip hop. I was always watching, you would on the Sunday newspaper, when papers were more of a thing, you would always wait for Best Buy, Circuit City at the time. They would release what's going to be coming out.
Tower Records.
Tower Records one time. The Warehouse. Sam
FYE.
Goody. Yes, FYE, dude. Did I say Sam Goody?
You did say Sam Goody.
I mean, the Warehouse was actually more of a regional thing. I don't think y'all had that. God, it was a beautiful time to have actually record stores, but I used to diligently watch those dates and heavily anticipate when things were coming out. So I think that's where I started to get obsessed, like, because I'd be saving up my money for that Tuesday. So I really, I had to know what, like, for instance, a day I'll never forget, September 29th, 1998, one of the most important days in hip hop. I'm only going to say this so much because some important albums came out.
Hold on, 98?
1998. What were you doing?
Let me try and think.
What were you doing?
I want to say Slim Shady LP came out.
Ooh.
Or Marshall Mathers LP. 98?
98. I have some answers, but
98
I
would be maybe
fishing.
Slim Shady LP. Okay. Possibly. Probably not. Also,
we're in the neighborhood. We're definitely in the neighborhood.
Are we in the neighborhood?
We're gonna say,
all right.
Okay, you try to guess what came out. Okay,
yeah.
You try to guess what came out. It's in the neighborhood. I will say, Slim Shady EP came out in 1998. Most of us did not know who Eminem was. He was still in September.
Was that not Infinite?
Infinite came out in 1996. That was
98. What the fuck was happening in 98?
98. Let's see, what was on the radio, man? Mo Thugs had that song. Yep, it's all GWOD good. Corrupt was out there. He was doing his thing. Puffy, Mace was still a thing. The No Way Out album was still a thing. Harlem World. Cameron had come out with his first album, Confessions of Fire. A lot of albums came out. Noriega's first album came out. Big Pun came out that year.
So then what was...
DMX came out twice that year.
Was that what it was?
No. September 20th. He came out May 19th, 1998. And he also came out December 22nd, 1998. But that's It's Dark and Hell is Hot and Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. September 29th, 1998. This is
like Jeopardy.
Oh, dude. I'm excited because I can't even like nerd out with people. This is what we were doing backstage at that thing, which I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
At that thing. At that
was
thing.
A fucking nightmare.
For you and I to know.
Yeah.
And none of you have ever seen this thing, and you probably never will.
They said, don't post this. Like, you don't got to worry about me not posting this.
You got to tell us twice, man. But, the unfortunate thing, tangent here, that would have been some of the most, like, epic footage. Like the potential, if you paint, like, the skeleton of what happened.
Yeah.
That was, man, that was like a feather in the hat thing that we are probably never gonna pluck. We're just gonna leave it there. But I'm
yeah, they're not gonna know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm leaving it there. I don't know if we should say it, but I think I like the mystery of it.
Yeah,
it's kind of a funny thing that we really connected on.
We were hired to rap at a corporate gig, a big corporate gig for a big corporate company, who hired us strictly just to rap some very bad songs that they had written.
Oh man.
Which was really difficult.
Wow, son.
It was really difficult.
Like, it was funny. It was some of the most, like, it was some of the dopest spitters that I've known personally or met. And we were
just dumbed down, just stripped of everything.
Man,
it paid well though.
Yeah.
So fuck it.
Yeah, right. That was say, oh wow, man, Ekoh sold out, bro. Like, no, man. It was one of those things where that's a part of living in Vegas too. Is you do a lot of things with music. There's a lot of money opportunities in Vegas, and you're still doing your thing, kind of, or mostly. It's different. Come from Sacramento, there are working musicians, and there are in every city, but Vegas is one of those rare places where you can be, or in my case, more of like a host. You can rap, you can sing, you can dance, you can do all this other stuff, and people could not even know it. You could have like 5 gigs here, all music or arts related, and you would never know.
Yeah,
because it's just different aspects of their talent, and not always utilized the best, but it's worth your time.
Yeah.
This was one of those examples. I would say the greatest thing out of it, honestly, to be super mushy, it was great. This is how we got here right now. I'm glad that I finally got to connect with you.
Sure.
Because I feel like there was kind of a barrier because we were in such different worlds, even though we're so close. I'm separated just because I'm with the band world, just like the Roots. Like, people don't list Black Thought until he started doing that freestyle.
Unfortunately, because he's one of the best rappers of all time, hands down.
And I admit, I slept on him. I always loved Black Thought, but I didn't really, I was caught in that narrative of like, well, I mean, they're a hip hop band. And there's that kind of that thing because it's its own world. Like, yeah, that's hip hop. No, it's totally hip hop. And I feel like I've benefited and suffered from being like the band dude. Cause
Well,
like,
so let me ask you about that then, because you started off as a solo act, and then so incorporating into a band, what was the thought behind that? What was the idea? What was it? What something you set out to do? Did it happen organically? Did you just fall into it, or was it something you had kind of always had in the back of your mind? How did that exactly happen? For those who don't know, when I'm talking right now, Rasar's in a band out. It's like just like the Roots. It's a hip hop band called the Lique. You can find them on Instagram at the Lique.
Yes, at the Lique band, Lique.
Lique.
Yeah, man, Lique. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, like literally all the good stuff. We're on in YouTube too. Yeah.
So, what was the inspiration behind joining a band? I've always said I could never be in a band.
Oh, really?
I couldn't.
That was like
I'm way too much of a fucking control freak. That's why I skated. That's why I didn't play sports. I didn't play team sports. Individual self-expression is where it's at for me. I don't play well with others.
I'm more of that, which is why I've been a solo act for so long.
Yeah.
But I've been shown the other way. So it's definitely a little out of my element. It definitely had something to work up to, but I have a history with this. So I gladly do two things. Explains. I remember asking you just casually when we did that thing. I was like, man, you play basketball or anything like that? And you were like, no, do I look like a basketball player? You just kind of further answered it with like why you chose skateboarding. It's like, yeah, you would never do that. That's like totally depends on other people, and you got to do a bunch of other stuff. I want to answer it, but also the way my brain works is I will be stuck on September 29th, 1990 if I don't say it.
So tell me what came out.
So Outkast Aquemini, Tribe Called Quest, The Love Movement, Jay-Z Hard Knock Life Volume 2. And even if like people want to be super underground and never like anything Jay-Z did, that was like a big moment in hip hop when that came out. Him using Annie and all that stuff, which I actually
massive.
I actually didn't like that song. That's not what sold me on it. I was already a Jay-Z fan.
I liked there was a song on that album. S. Carter, you must try
harder. Competition is not wow, man.
That was
people don't even bring that one up, man.
I fucking love that song.
That's an album cut. That's in there, man. And so I mean, all those things. Well, that was the years when he was dropping consecutively.
Yeah,
he came out every single year from 1996 to like 2003, without fail, and that in itself is pretty admirable, especially because most of that stuff was like strong bodies of work. Jay-Z is not my favorite rapper, but I gotta admire that work ethic and the versatility too, because he was working with like. I still haven't answered the question about how did I get into the band, but I had to take care of 1998. We could go on a Jay-Z tangent. I'll maybe reel it back in.
Let's reel it back.
Yeah. Okay, let's get down to your question. Okay. So first time I was ever in a band was 2005. I learned how to play the role. I was just a kid, and I got thrown in. There's a group called Soul Remnants based out of Sacramento. Shout out to Old Ghost, whose idea that was. I still know some of those people. It was a band already. It started out, in fact, at that show where I was telling you about Ocean Lounge in 2005, that the Old Ghost, the leader of Soul Remnants, he basically was like the guy that was over this thing that became TPR, the People's Revolution, which was like a collective, which indirectly, they like to take some credit for it, but they indirectly spawned my crew. But we were kind of our own thing, but we were associated. But this is to say, he saw what I was. I was like this young, super angry, like revolutionary, just like very political. And I hadn't even gotten into Immortal Technique yet. And then when I got in him, like, that changed my life.
Yeah.
Bro. And in fact, Old Ghost is the guy that got me into Immortal Technique like 4 months before I really got it. He showed me, I think it was Harlem Streets. Homicide Harlem, blah, what's the problem? Like he showed me that. And I think he showed me like the fourth branch. But anyway, so I was into all that stuff and he threw me in this band, but like he was the star, which as it's now clear, I'm a front man. And so but I had to learn, just like in a sport, you do have to learn, and you see this a lot in the NBA. You do have to learn to be a role player, and there's always like rookies and stuff like that. I think I benefited because I'd already been a solo artist for like 6 years. I benefited from having to be like just a little feature guy. And eventually that cramped my style.
Yeah.
But I learned to be around a band and, just learning like there's so many other places, but I wasn't like, yo, I need my own band. I didn't walk away thinking that. I was like, I got to go back to being me.
Yeah.
And then ironically, one of the hardest things was getting out of that band. And then within like a month or two, I was opening for Tech Nine by myself.
Yeah.
You know, at 19. So I was like, okay, I guess this is okay to be a solo act. I guess this works,
Yeah,
you
right.
know? And dude, I have to tell you about it. You're one of the few people I could like share with, like, dude, we've both played Tech Nine shows.
Yeah. I'm playing one in like a week.
Yeah. So there we go. We're in the same family. And I just listened to his new album by Nina.
It's really good.
It is, dude.
It's the best thing he's put out in a long time.
Dude, how does he do that?
I don't know.
He
It's
should
really
be-
fucking good though.
How does he do that? I feel like we already knew everything about him, but he can still tell me about the 57th Street Road Dog villains.
And I still give a shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do I still care? I don't know, but I do.
I know. I feel like I've heard Brian Beazle Dennis a billion times. I know about everybody, and I know about his, children, and back to this ring with his marriage, and everything. I know his life. But it was really in 2011. If you don't mind me, maybe I should speed up the arc a little bit. But I'm kind of telling you this.
Do you?
You're like, whatever. All right, so I'll jump ahead to there's several bands, but there's like two that really made the Lique, that shaped me. By the time I got to Lique, I knew what I was doing, and that's why it's been executed. I would say pretty well within the lane that we've created for ourselves. Or there wasn't much of a lane for us. We had some ideas, but most of them were people from before our time. I will say in Vegas, obviously, R&R.
R&R, yeah. I was talking about R&R the other day.
All hats off to them. They were it. They were the hip hop band, and they don't get mentioned enough, but like they were everything, and we were in their shadow when we came along. We weren't trying to take their spot or anything. It just happened. In fact, I was trying to leave Vegas, but the band came to me really. And yeah, they actually gave us first time we ever got to play in Bunkhouse. We were having trouble getting booked at Bunkhouse when they had former owners. And yeah, they were a gimme, and they got us. I realized I jumped around the years. I haven't explained the band thing, but I just got to give a shout out to Ronaldo, Coco, everybody. Dominic. I didn't know everybody individually, but I think I met everybody at one point. But
I played a lot of shows with them back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You did say you went back like with each other.
Yeah, we went back. We played the first Life is Beautiful together. I think we both got put on Red Bull Sound Select together. They used to throw shows at House of Blues. Every opening gig for like a good year or two, it was like me and R&R.
It's just back and forth.
Yeah.
No, man, I've seen, because I know they did everybody. I'm sure you did too. I heard about them when I came along. They like T-Pain had just happened. Snoop. I think one of the last things they did was Ziggy Marley. Last things they did. But yeah,
It's funny, those opening gigs are always, it's always an interesting thing to me because I cared about it so much,
Mm-hmm.
and then realized that it doesn't make a difference for my career.
Mm.
And when I realized that me trying to get these shows is all ego, it was a career changing thing for me.
Wow.
That I was just searching out, trying to get these because I didn't want someone else to have it, or because I thought it meant that I was doing something. I thought, this people will think I'm doing it. People will accept me. People will appreciate me. People will think that I'm better than I am, or people will finally take me seriously, or whatever it is.
Yeah, all these things.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't move the needle whatsoever, or it wasn't for me at least. You know what I mean? I was playing for the same people. I was doing the same shit, and it just, like I said, just wasn't moving the needle for me. And so I had to step away and be like, I don't care.
Huh.
Let somebody else do it.
Huh.
You know what I mean? Like, this isn't for me. Like, yeah, it's awesome playing these opening gigs, but at the end of the day, how am I going to headline? You know what I mean? How am I going to headline one day? Like, what do I do?
Right.
It was just a really big learning experience.
Man.
For me, of like giving up the need to try and get these gigs and try and get opening gigs and get accepted by these certain things and shit like that. I remember playing Live is Beautiful 2 years in a row and thinking, oh my God, this is it. And then, November rolls around after the festival. It's like, well, I'm the same exact spot I was before this.
Yeah. Life is Beautiful. Also, Lique got an opportunity to play there twice. But it was Life is Beautiful was amazing, and I think I've talked to other people who've done it. One thing about doing it is, what do I do after this? It's because they get you right when you're like popping in Vegas and like you're about as high as you can go. It's kind of like the pinnacle in many ways. And it's like you don't want to like step down from that because it's like, man, there's all these names you're next to, and there's a lot of people, and it's super prestigious. And like it was an honor to this day. It's one of the like best experiences of my life. But it does leave you like, now what is if you didn't already have like a tour to go into or something, it's like, man, because you don't want to just like do something with like 100 people or even 300 people, you know, like 2 months later. But you just got to kind of bite the bullet and go back to doing whatever you do.
But it's a nice reality. For me, it was the reality check of, okay, well, this doesn't mean shit. And for me, my whole music career has been a constant, this didn't mean shit. Like you thought this meant shit. Like you still ain't shit. Like it's the constant reminder of you still ain't shit has been the greatest gift for me. Like the worst time for me mentally is like the first 3-4 days after a release. I'll put out a single. I'll be super stoked and have everything ready to roll, videos ready to roll, a whole rollout, put it out. And then for 3 days, you know, replying to comments and all this kind of stuff and getting all the love and, you know, all the feedback. And if it's good, it's just, but then it just puts me in this weird mindset of, I just want this to be, I want to be back to normal. Because I feel like I can't create when I'm in this spot. I feel like I'm not inspired to do anything. I'm just kind of reacting to a bunch of stuff, and it's overload, and it'll start to skew the way I look at things, and it's almost, I immediately need to go write a shitty song. You know,
this is new. We have different perspectives on this, but I don't disagree.
Well, I really like, earlier you were talking about, you know, the whole career, the whole music thing is like a whole, like, look at me. And I heard someone years ago, I don't remember where it was. It was probably, I think it was at like a retreat I went to or something, but someone was talking about their whole life is look at me, don't look at me. And that is my story 100%. It's like, look at me. Okay, stop fucking looking at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I need you to look at me, but stop fucking looking at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
like I need the attention, but I don't want the attention. And it's like almost, you know, almost like removed. Like I look at it from like an outside perspective. Like it's like I'm just looking at somebody else doing something. You know what I'm saying? It's just a really weird place. And especially in the last year of having, you know, building up a bigger platform on the internet and shit like that, to constantly remind myself that the internet is not real life. What these people say doesn't matter. Even if they like it, it doesn't matter.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Because I can't let what anybody thinks, good or bad, change the way I think. Because that's bad space for me to be in. You know?
That you just opened something with how social media affects. So you opened a few things there. You also, God, so many references pop off when you say all this stuff, man. I would say, I don't know if I want to go there yet, but about, social media, how that can be a brain drain. Look away, don't look at me. There's something about that I wanted to zero in on, about like, you know, look at me now, don't look at me. That's something that I think a lot of us deal with that are in this. We're not the only introverts in music. I also wanted to say, side note, thank you, because I didn't know your government name at the time, but the name stood out, and I don't know how I put 2 and 2 together, but you commented on the Lique's video, Billy's Holiday, like 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure you did.
Yeah, probably.
But I didn't know that was you. And then later I saw your name, and I was like, oh, dude, wow, I didn't even know you knew who we were. Just side note.
Oh, yeah.
So that did mean something to me.
I think you guys are the reason I started working with Jeremy also.
Jeremy Lee. Yeah. Man, shout out to Jeremy Lee. Ismahawk killing it, man. Like,
I think Jeremy hates me.
Oh man, why would Jeremy hate you?
Jeremy Lee, at Jeremy Lee, if you guys, Jeremy is a music video director. Not even just a music video director, just a videographer, director, cinematographer, creator.
He's a genius. He's
great.
He's and his audio. That's the catch right there. He has this warm audio that he does to his videos I haven't really heard anywhere else. And also most video people, and this is not a knock to them, they don't know how to do audio. You usually have to get someone else to like specialize in that or just drop your track on it, especially if it's a live performance. Man, Jeremy Lee. Man, there's no one like him that I've ever seen.
He's great.
I just put it there.
Jeremy hates me because I'll hit him up on Monday and be like, hey, dude, what are you doing tomorrow?
Oh, no.
He'll be like, I don't know why. I'm like, dude, you want to go to this water park and film this fucking video? He's like, do you have any idea? I was like, sort of. Like, I think we should do something like this.
Oh, man.
You know?
You put him to the test.
And I'll just be like, I'll have the people. I'll have the shit. Let's just go.
Yeah.
You know? And I know it's just nerve-wracking.
Yeah, yeah.
He's very calculated, very want to have everything set up. He takes his time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, let's fucking go, homie.
Yeah. Let's just make it
roll,
up.
son.
Let's just roll.
So
no, he's super meticulous, but he has also worked with us on not that short of notice, but we kind of catch him like, dude, like we need something in the next week, and we have like 2 dates, maybe like for 2 hours, and it's 5 guys. But because I am dealing with a band, I don't get to be as fly by the seat of my pants because it's like
a lot of schedules.
Yeah, if 3 or 4 other guys can't do it, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
So,
but back to what you're saying. So, what about social media?
Well, you know, I was gonna take an interesting twist here, because you know this part of the theme of this is also like mental health, right? Yeah. And something that came to mind that actually I wasn't aware of until last week. So there's a young lady named Ashley. I want to say her name is Lovelace. Lovelace. I don't know how to say that last name.
That name sounds really familiar.
And this is an example of how social media can shape, especially the youth, people who grew up on social media. They don't remember anything before Twitter or Facebook, or I know Facebook is not for the kids or whatever, but you know, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff. This is an example of like online bullying, man. I mean, we've heard it a ton of times. It's typically been a foreign concept, although I've seen adults do it for sure. I've seen it. But you know, when I was in school, I didn't get MySpace until my senior year. So like I never had to deal with like what these kids have to deal with today. And I've been aware for some years that, you know, there's a lot of self-harm, a lot of things that go on with that. So there's this young lady who just turned 16 this year, Ashley Lovelace, and she's from Vegas, but she actually, I guess, was starting to come up, finding a lot of stuff out retroactively. And I guess she was like, you know, doing product placement. I don't know if she was like an official model, but whatever, you know, that you can have your whole life on social media. So
she was a model.
Yeah, she was an IG model. And I guess she has some YouTube stuff too. And anyway, I just found out that she's no longer with us. She took her own life. And
oh wow.
16 years old, man. She just turned 16 in November and she passed in January. And you know, it was crazy to see that because she was so happy. Like in all the I've seen like pictures of her, it's girly stuff. She's like just super, happy and vibing, just like a kid or whatever. And I'm reading all these, and her mom like took over her page and has put out these heartfelt things. And what I didn't realize is I guess some people who were like fans and already knew about her, they said that they had noticed towards the end that she had cuts on her arms, which I didn't realize. I mean, a lot of people were saying that, I haven't seen those pictures, but I guess people were more privy to that.
Yeah.
But she didn't. Another thing is she was a person of color. She was like black, and I forget, what her other ethnicity was. She was like Asian.
Okay.
And a lot of times, especially in the black community, it's been sometimes more difficult to like come forthright with like mental illness.
Yeah.
And typically suicide or self-harm isn't associated with black people as much. It's just like, it's one of those things like, no, we don't do that. If like you have to get racial.
I've heard that.
Yeah, it's like kind of a thing. And like I think black people have been going to therapists for, quite some time, but still in general, that's more of a recent thing of that just being like.
What was this girl being online bullied?
Yes, that's what this is coming back to. She was. Unfortunately, this is where it gets sick. So apparently Ashley Lovelace was being bullied by a man who was making fun of her. I was just reading up on it while we were setting this up a little bit more. Some guy, I don't know his name, but was like interacting with her and like trolling her, dropping all these horrible comments about like the way she looked, mocking her, I guess dressing up like her, doing his hair or whatever. Just it seemed like something stupid and innocuous, but I guess he was really getting to her and she was already fragile and in terms of, but you wouldn't know. Like she seemed like she was, I mean, she was obviously very popular, but I guess this guy was a major part of that, and it went so far as to, she got a little it hit her, and then she just kind of I think she even like posted like the day before, and then she's no longer with us. And this guy was on her like every day, and friends have come forth and said like, no, they knew about her and like they knew about this guy.
Yeah.
And there's videos of him. Even further, he's reveled in her passing. And there's like from what I read, there's like
wow.
He has like accounts which are like now private now, but even there, like he's even gone so far as to say that he's glad she's dead. There's like thousands of people more.
Why wouldn't she have just blocked him?
I saw that in the comments, and I don't know why not, but I think someone said that this guy was so relentless he did have multiple accounts. I don't know if she ever did, but they said it had reached a point where like they knew he would just come through from someone else, and he was like getting at her from all these.
Well, there's got to be some sort of like, at what point do you cross a line to where maybe this is something that's going to come, now with the new age of stalking. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't have to follow somebody physically to be stalking them. Online stalking is a thing, and it's something obviously that this guy was doing to this girl. And if it's relentless, if it's harassment, at what point is there some sort of action to take against that? Because it happens all the time. And if someone is sick, if somebody was following you and constantly harassing you every time you said something, or every time you're having a conversation, or every time you were going to work, or anything it's a no-brainer. Like, call the cops on that guy. That guy should be arrested. He's mentally ill. He's fucked up.
Yeah.
Someone needs to deal with that. But when it's online, it's, in some cases, it becomes normalized.
Yeah.
Because trolling is just a thing, and trolling has become this word and this phrase that's, become a part of our culture that sometimes is, used lightly, and, we make fun of it, and it just becomes a part of the conversation that we say, and it's not taken as seriously as it should be in a lot of cases when it's trolling to the point of stalking, when it's trolling to the point of harassment. And when people can do things and they can do it anonymously, people will do whatever the fuck they want. People will say whatever they want if you don't know if there's no consequence for what they do. What's stopping somebody from, especially if they're mentally ill, from doing whatever the fuck they want?
Yeah.
And it comes down to, as you were talking, all I kept thinking was how funny the dynamic is of how you never know what's going on with the person. Because online, what we don't do is talk about the bad shit, right? Online, we only talk about the good things. We paint the picture we want everybody to see. I want you to see my life as this. I'm happy. Everything's good. Everything's successful. I'm great. We're great. This relationship is great, whatever. But we don't talk like that in person. If you were in person with somebody and you're sitting at lunch and somebody came and all they started talking about is how good everything is, how great their life is, as soon as they walked away, you'd be like, well, what a fucking, all right, dude, we get it. Your life is great. How funny is that? When we're in person, we only degrade ourselves. We only talk about the negative shit. We only talk about how bad things are. And we only focus on the negative. But then we go online and we highlight the positive. And the truth lies somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's taboo to talk yourself up or to talk positively about yourself in public.
Yeah.
But it's also taboo to be real on the internet.
Yeah.
So where do you fucking find yourself?
Right.
Where do you, the whole dynamic, how that has to fuck with your brain on a subconscious level of, this is what I'm showing people, but this is what I'm showing these strangers, and this is what I'm telling the people that are close to me. So where is the truth?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
And that's when it comes down to the online bullying, I mean, I don't even know where to begin when it comes to all that stuff, and it's really sickening with everything, with the way people act towards celebrities, even, or the way just people act towards each other. Period. Just people are always looking to talk some shit.
Yeah,
to be an asshole.
Definitely.
And as an artist, putting shit on the internet is scary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about the fact that, as an artist, you need to make sure everything is perfect, because someone will rip you apart for anything anyways.
Every single thing is a thing. Like, if that was off, or was there something on my lip? It's like, really, are we being like superficial? It's like, no, like some people will just roast, or like a one little mistake or something you did. It's like, yeah, get some thicker skin. It's like, but if there's a lot of people picking apart this one thing, or maybe your whole shtick is something that people don't like, and they just make fun of the way, you look, or just the concept, even if it's not a personal attack, but we do take our art personally, and someone just rips you to shreds on something that you meant like from the bottom of your heart, and it's just like nothing. Now, criticism is not new, but when you start taking it to another level, that's where it's like
people like to disguise hate as criticism.
Wow.
But also, you don't get to give me constructive criticism when you've never constructed anything. Who the fuck are you? You know what I'm saying? And if you, the funny thing is, if you blast back at somebody, they're like, "Hey man, you can't take criticism." Dude, fuck you. Like, how come you can walk up in here and just rip my character apart as a human being, and when I'm like, "Yo, fuck you," then I'm an asshole because I can't take criticism?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. When you put stuff out, I've had whole music videos I've scrapped because I know if I put this out, I don't stand behind it 100%. And I can take shit talk from anybody. You can tell me anything about anything I put out. I believe in it 100% and I'm confident in it. But if there's even the littlest piece that I'm not confident in, if there's a chink in my armor and you find it and you point it out, I'm done for.
You're done.
And I know that, and it'll bother me if I know that something wasn't right and you point it out. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And just, I don't think people understand the mental aspect of being an artist in this climate, in this day and age, is just really difficult.
We put ourselves before, and that goes back to that song "Soul for You," and even Butterscotch's verse, that Lique song that I have, which really takes you into the mind of an independent artist. Her verse, I knew from discussions with her, that it was like, especially when she went to LA, she told me about some crazy parties that she went to, and the verse that she's talking about was about more than that. But she's had success in many places, but in LA, definitely she's had a lot of that, and also being a woman in the entertainment industry. That's
I can't even imagine.
Other discussion, man. They're, obviously they always talk to them about their looks or what they could do or sexing it up more.
Yeah.
It's always a thing. And, I remember she said something, we described this person as a shark. And I just remember someone really just tried to rip her apart, but for the sake of. It was like they didn't actually find really a flaw, but because she does present as like so like strong, confident, and she's got all this stuff to back it up. And usually, her name precedes her. There's always like people always bigging her up. And then there was like this like sharpshooter kind of guy, and he was at like this important party, and I don't know how they got in this, but like she got cornered in a casual situation, but kind of put on the spot and just like, just tried to just rip her apart. And yeah, she's a strong person and she's moved on, prevailed, and done greater things. But it was like, you don't forget stuff like that. And I've experienced but not, I want to stick to her situation. Like, that guy doesn't know what she was going through that day. And I know she's introverted too. Like I'm not going to speak too much on her personal life, but like myself as an introvert, it takes a lot to go out and be around people. And like we were talking about. So then you go out there, and then some people have the audacity. That's one of the things of not only being an online personality, but also just being in person is, if you're a public figure, then people feel like they can, I'm sure you've had it at shows, people get, because they feel a connection to you, or you excite them, or they're jealous of you, whatever happens, people say some wild stuff to you as a performer.
Yeah.
They touch you a little too much.
Well, people look at you like you're a product. You're not a human being.
Yes.
And that's something that maybe we deal with on a small level. But even if you look at like a big, celebrities, you become a product. You become not a human being anymore. Your feelings don't matter.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? We'll use you until we're done and then throw it out and then on to the next. And just the idea that people just think that they can just talk shit about whatever the fuck they want, just say whatever the fuck they want. I don't understand the idea of, I've never in my life just seen something and didn't like it and then decided to comment on how much I didn't like it. I don't understand that mind, that whole, like, why are you focusing on how much you don't like something? And why do you give a fuck if other people like it? There's a lot of shit I don't like.
Oh yeah.
I hated Aquaman. I thought that movie was garbage.
Okay.
But I'm not going to say that I won't come out here and say Aquaman was a shitty movie. This is a very bad example. But I'm going to be like, Aquaman was a shitty movie. I didn't like it. It wasn't made for me.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's bad.
See, that's a more nuanced, mature approach to things.
But, if I go to a restaurant and there's the greatest chef on the West Coast making the most amazing oysters ever, I don't like oysters. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to like it.
It's not
that
for
doesn't
you.
mean it's not good.
It's just not
It
for
might
you.
be the most amazing fucking, but I don't like it. But I'm not going to go be like, yo, these suck just because I don't like it.
Quit your job.
It wasn't made for me. It was made for somebody that likes oysters.
Yes.
So let people like what the fuck they like. The idea that if you don't like something, you're going to go try and convince other people not to like it because you don't. That's the most mind-blowing shit I've ever heard of. Why would you want to steal joy from people? Why would you want to see somebody enjoying something and then go try and take that away from them instead of just letting them like what the fuck they like?
You do your thing.
And that comes down to everything. Gay marriage, people, or if you're a man and you want to be a woman, or vice versa, or whatever sex you like, or whatever it is, whatever the fuck, do you? If that makes you happy, why would I want to take that away from somebody?
Do your I think that kind of reminds me of I don't know where this comes from, if it's just a phrase or if it's a company that did this, but I started seeing a bumper sticker called, it just said "Do no harm."
Yeah.
And I kind of stuck with that. It was also this band I was rolling with called Zug. Shout out to Zug. And they have a lot of stickers, but "Do no harm" was one, and I started noticing other places where they weren't. And of course, you could argue that humans in our existence, just existing, we are somewhat parasitic. You could argue that, but at least try to minimize your negative impact. Don't go overboard. Trying to spoil the situation for other people. I think we all to an extent do harm just by existing and waste and all this stuff, but intentionally, tearing people down and all this other stuff. I mean. So especially when you could be building your own empire. That's the thing, man. I think that a lot of times, no matter how high up you are, you can still criticize other people or just not like things. But I think it is true that the more that you work on yourself, the more that you create things, or if you're just involved, or if you're working to help other people, maybe you have an elderly family member or your significant other is ill or not able to do everything that they could, or they're whatever it is where you have to give of yourself. You don't have time for all that. I think that a lot of times we lose touch with one, not even being in nature. We're city boys, you know what I mean? But like
for sure,
getting out to nature will humble you. Like I just did a festival recently called Lucidity Festival last week in Santa Barbara, and it was amazing hippie fest, and we were out there, and there was some wild, like, just spiritual stuff going on, and I woke up super early in the morning and it was just quiet. It was away from everything, freeway, no planes, no people chattering really, just a few people kind of waking up. And that, like, silence. And then just even though there was a bunch of, like, vans and all this other stuff, and we had put society on nature, just being around, like, seeing the birds and being around trees and all this stuff. It's like, man, like, And I'm sure you've seen it whenever you fly and, you just look down. It's like, man, there's all this other stuff that's like so much bigger than me. I think anytime
Yeah.
we get caught up on bringing other people down or other things down, which we, of course, you and I will probably go off about like we don't like this or that and the third. It's fine to have your dislikes and thoroughly explain it, but dwelling in that, living in that.
Well, it's okay to have whatever opinion you have as long as you're not trying to push it on other people. I'm not like, if I don't like some shit, I'm not going to try and convince you not to like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because fuck it. Like what you like. And I mean, you're right. There's a whole idea that people, why would you, bring people down when you could be bringing people up, when you could be and I don't even, that's not my philosophy. I don't think you need to spread positivity. I don't think you need, you should. I would like if you do.
Yeah.
But just don't be a dick.
Let's start there.
You know what I mean? Let's start there. You don't got to go. You don't have to spread the gospel. You don't have to, do all this shit. You don't have to, help homeless people and all this shit. I would like it if you did, and more people should. But at the end of the day, stop tearing people down. I think most people are unaware that they're doing it.
Yeah.
Most people are just on autopilot all the time. Go to work, come home, eat dinner, wake up, eat breakfast, go do this. And they get a fucking kick out of going and talking shit.
Yeah.
And it's just an autopilot. Like I've been there in my life where I've been on autopilot for months at a time and will notice, I haven't been behind the wheel. You know what I mean? I've just been kind of along for the ride. And what the fuck has happened in my life?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've just been going off of pure instinct. You know what I mean? Whatever feels right, you do. Whatever, the next thing is. And it's that's why I think when you're talking about being in nature, silence is such an important thing, because for me, it's like a meditation. And meditation is, when I realize I'm not my thoughts. And these things, I'm not in control. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what my next thought's going to be. I have no fucking clue what my next thought's going to be. So I can't beat myself up for having these thoughts, no matter what it may be, but I don't have to act on it either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if I can be aware of what I'm thinking when I think it and either discard it or, work on it. You know what I'm saying? But it's not every single thing I just immediately act on. That's when I'm on autopilot. The thought comes, boom, I do it. You know what I mean? And then I start feeling like I am whatever I think. But I'm not. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to think next.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, you don't.
I think people should be in nature. I think people should quiet down. I think people should do psychedelics every once a few years. Get in touch with some shit.
I've never done it, but as much as not only Rogan, I've seen other people talk about DMT, but I've never done anything.
Yeah.
I've never smoked cigarettes, done the weed. I'm super square.
That's impressive.
Oh man, I'm honored that I've had the opportunity to have this life path and sometimes encourage other people without necessarily, like you're saying, you have to always preach the gospel. I haven't like gone around, although, and being in the entertainment industry, we see it all. We seen everybody's been around a lot of stuff, and like I just feel like the more in touch with yourself and less on autopilot, the more that you can like resist those urges. Because for me, I personally, when I see a drink, I don't feel like, oh, I gotta have a drink, but I know there's a lot of people that struggle with that.
Yeah.
But either way, when you get down to silencing yourself and being more aware of your thoughts, like you're talking about, that does give you the power to be like, delaying the gratification and considering. I personally don't have that urge, but we all have different urges that was like, oh, I need to think before I do that. Also, and I'm sure you could speak to that even more, but it's something you brought up that made me want to go a little further was there's a great philosopher, Indian philosopher named Jiddu Krishnamurti, so often just known by Krishnamurti. And I started reading one of his books. 2005 was just such an important year for me. We were talking about music, but that was also a year where I just started figuring out a whole bunch of things about life. Once I got out of school, that's where I was like, oh, okay, there's stuff. Not just having a job or whatever, but just like I started learning about like the world and politics and really questioning like, what are my faith beliefs or do I have any and all these other things and what are all the things that we've been held back from? And I started like getting into Buddhism, Taoism, all these other things, and read a lot of self-help books. And I'd say, shout out to Wayne Dyer, man, one of the greatest ever, just one of my favorite people. And I highly recommend anyone listen to or read his books, Wayne Dyer. But also, Jiddu Krishnamurti, I tried to read his stuff. He had a book called You Are the World, and I wasn't ready for it, man. I thought I was so like open and smart and ready to go. Like I'm just consuming it. I didn't get it. I struggled. I was working at Sports Authority and I was reading it, and I remember just like, man, I really don't get that. I'm reading all this like tough Buddhist stuff, but the stuff with the Buddhist stuff is like the beauty was the simplicity of it. He's like the opposite side of it. Like he tells you simple truths, but through all this like long meandering language, and you have to. It is a meditation unto itself. So later I was ready, and there's a book called so The Something of Intelligence. Oh man, I have this book and I read it like a few years ago and I own it. It's The Something of Intelligence, and it bothers me that I can't think of it. But anyway, Krishnamurti has this excellent series of books, and he did all these lectures. And he was talking about this like 70s and 80s, and he died in the 80s. I think he was like 80 or 90 something. So he'd been talking about this stuff for like 50 plus years. And Krishnamurti definitely explored that concept of I am not my thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty profound thing that you said there, man, to really realize, especially for myself and other people who are like really caught in your whole universe is up here. All is mind. I mean, there's a book called The Kabbalion, Kybalion, The Kabbalion, which is like all is mental. The universe is mental. So everything is largely in our mind.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're not the thoughts. And that's an important distinction to be aware of that many of us have to kind of grow into.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, it's been a constant struggle. My entire life. I mean, I'm sober 12 years, it'll be 12 years in July.
Congrats, man.
But that's the thing I've battled with my entire life is, substances, wanting to check out, wanting, take the edge off, wanting to get some relief, wanting to just be outside of myself, outside of my skin for a long period of my life. I mean, nowadays it's completely different. Now, like, I don't want to be out of my skin. I want to be present. I want to be in the moment. I'm trying to be as much as possible. And it's really difficult, but the whole idea of that, starting to think of myself in a certain light because I've done certain things, or, how many times do I do things out of character until that's my character? You know what I mean? What kind of person do I want to be? How do I want to live my life? What do I want to portray? And those are all, things that are really difficult to look at. And you don't really want to look at. When I was younger, I didn't give a shit. I didn't care. No. Also, when I was younger, it was really hard. And a big reason for me starting a podcast that was, centered around, music and pop culture and mental health, which doesn't seem like they really fit with each other, is because when I got sober, it wasn't cool. It was, it felt like my life was over, and if I would have known the things that would or could lie ahead, it would have made it a lot easier on me. Just the whole idea that, I can do whatever the fuck I want, as long as I stay away from this, these things, my life is completely opened up and I can do whatever the fuck I want. And I've been able to do everything I talked about doing when I was getting fucked up. I've been able to accomplish sober.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? And that's a big thing. I remember, doing a meditation, and it was like a guided meditation, and it started talking about how, imagine you're in a train station. Every train is one of your thoughts, and you don't have any feelings towards the train. You don't, there's no positive towards, there's no negative. You have no preconceived idea of the train. You've never seen the train before. It doesn't have any attachment to you. It doesn't affect you in any way. It just comes and then it goes, and then another one comes and then it goes, and then one over here is coming and going. It's like, those are your thoughts. Imagine your thoughts of these trains. You can let it go by. You don't have to hop on that train.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Dude, that's perfect.
I hop on every fucking train.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I'll hop from one, and then that starts going, and I'll James Bond hop to the fucking next. And ride that one until it's fucking crashing to the ground, and then I'll hop to another one and ride that until it's fucking off the rails.
Yeah.
and realizing I can just sit and just be and let things happen around me and then decide, what exactly I want to do.
Being the observer.
Paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, because you said the present and being present, and I have to say that's a really important concept. Like, a lot of times people would ask me, because like I said, like we've come from two different paths in terms of relationship to substances. But I remember people would notice, I wouldn't go around being like, hey, I don't smoke the weed, so don't do that stuff around me. It's just like people would figure, they'd be like, hey, oh no, I'm good. And then, or like, everybody be drinking and vibing and stuff, and then I'm like, I'll have an orange juice. And that's to this day, I throw people off. But now I'm at that age where people think I'm like a recovering alcoholic. So like, okay, like how long, or like something happened to you?
Yeah,
It's like, nothing happened. I just don't, it's not my vibe.
My fucking thing.
And one of the things I would tell people, because I would even ask, like, are you religious? Are you Muslim? Because they knew I was like, they needed something. And it's like, no, it's just not for me. But one of the things I did say was, I like to just be present. I like to know what's going on, because what I noticed was, especially in high school, when I noticed a lot of people started getting drunk, I didn't go to most of those parties. That's another thing. I didn't have peer pressure. I was a nerd. I stayed at home with my parents all the time, writing the rhymes, and it was like basketball, music, and that's it. Basketball, music, and that's it. I didn't go to the parties until I was a senior, and by then I already had enough of my own thing where I was like, I'm not doing that. And what I noticed is people were embarrassing themselves, and that was like that was another deterrent for me. I was like, and I had a blast. I was laughing at them. Yeah. I got all these blackmail videos on people. I mean, they were open to it. I was like filming people just, singing G Unit and falling all over the place and doing God knows what, I had a blast. I didn't do any of it. That's the other thing. People would think I'm drunk. I was like, dude, I wish people know you can have this much fun without anything.
Exactly.
I'm sitting down there laughing almost till tears coming down my face, and I'm partying and swaying and stuff. Haven't had a drink.
Yep.
But one of the things, but the thing is, I could drive myself home. It's not bragging. This is more of like things that, and if anybody's listening, it's like, looking for more reason to why they would want to. Like, this was my motivation, was I don't need to get a designated driver. I could help people out and be the designated driver, or I can like just leave when I want to. I don't have to worry about like, aside from being clumsy, knocking over a bunch of stuff, like, which I've seen people break.
Or being that fucking guy.
Yeah.
I've never woke up and thought, I wish I would have got fucked up last night. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's the big thing for me, is I've never regretted not doing some shit. But in the same breath, again, but I don't push that on anybody. I don't give a fuck what you do. I used to hang out with Che, was one of the biggest weed heads I've ever known. I have friends that just are fucking just straight degenerates. Some of my best friends. And I fucking love them to death. It's my favorite shit in the world. Yeah. And I love being around that.
We all got them friends, man.
You know what I mean?
That do whatever goes.
But they also know that I don't. You know what I mean? And it's just it's not weird, and it just fucking is what it is.
They respect it.
Yeah, but I'm like, I don't need it to be respected. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You're not going to change what I fucking want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But it just comes down to that same thing of people just want to push onto you what they know and what they think and how they feel. But in the same breath, I've been sober 12 years, but I've also, every few years, will partake in mushrooms for therapeutic reasons. Not some shit. I'll never do mushrooms and go party or go out. You know what I mean? Every few years, I'll feel something's off that I can't really figure out. And I'll take a day, take a night, me and like me and my girlfriend or something like that, take some mushrooms and fucking figure it out. You know what I mean? And then after that, I'm good for another fucking 2-3 years, whatever. You know what I mean? But that's what works for me. I think everybody's got their own sort of shit that works.
I've never done it, but I've had it. I've been told many times that I would probably enjoy. I've been told two things. I'd be like, man, you'd probably really like discover some stuff because you're already like doing a lot of this stuff sober. So I'd imagine what you do on that. And then some people like, maybe you don't need it. But everyone I've never heard, although there've been people who've had horrible trips, most of the time people did it and they suggest you always do it with somebody, either if not alone, with somebody you trust, like you say you did with Ekoh. Someone that a safe place. Do it where if things go awry, you're cool. Someone can bring you back down. And I think that if it's moderated, that, and I guess DMT, not to equate them, but they're in the neighborhood from what I understand.
Yeah.
I've heard it's been a beautiful thing, man. People you just see things. I don't know, maybe have you ever had a bad trip, or was it always positive?
When I was younger. When I was young and I was doing it for fun. You know what I'm saying? When I would do it and go and party and do whatever the fuck I was doing on some stupid shit. Yeah. I've had bad trips doing that shit before. But on a therapeutic level, no, I mean, the last time I did them, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, I think I cried 75% of the time, but I had some shit I had to work through. You know what I'm saying? I was just working through some emotions, working through a bunch of shit that was going on it's like lifting the hood on the car. You know what I mean? And just kind of looking at shit that I didn't even know was there, that subconsciously I've been taking shit way too serious. Subconsciously I've been taking on way too much pressure. I put way too much pressure on myself. You know what I mean? It's an ability to just step out and look at things objectively without any ego, without any self, without any, bullshit in between. And it is, for me, it was like, my girlfriend's like, we should go, and I want to go to, the mountains or whatever. I'm like, no, I need to be at home. Like, I need to be at home. I need to be around my dogs. Like, if I'm not around my dogs, if I want to see my dogs, I'm going to be like, yo, you know what I mean? So it's just like a very, low key sort of, let me go figure some shit out. And I think for some people it works like that. Some people, obviously it doesn't, but I think if people are having bad trips, for the most part, they're going into it with the wrong idea. You know what I mean? And I'm also under the thought that if you go in with a bad trip, and you see some shit you don't want to see, you probably need to see it.
The unveiling.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that was a bad trip. You probably had some shit. You know what I mean? It's not always fun cleaning the house.
Right.
But you got to do it every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to deal with the ugly for sure, man. Like,
yeah, but you work through it. You'll be better for it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying everybody should do it.
Right.
I'm saying it works for me. You know what I mean? To do like once every few years. It's like
you ain't pushing on nobody.
Yeah.
No, man, have you ever gotten into Bill Hicks?
No.
Bill Hicks, excellent comedian. He actually passed in the early 90s, but that was a part of a lot of uncovering. Was in 2005 I got into Bill Hicks. And I found out since he was like definitely a legend and he was on his way. He was truly amazing, but he had this thing called it's just a ride. It's only a ride. That's how he'd end his sets. But before he would get there, he would talk about, he definitely did acid plenty of times. He did acid all the time. And he talked about it. And that was like because people were still, you still had Seinfeld kind of running. So it's like people were doing this, or like, black people do this and white people do that. And it's like, and then here he comes and he's like from the South and he's in the Bible Belt, like questioning religion and talking about the JFK assassination and giving a positive spin. So he always had like this bit, without me giving it away, about the positive LSD story you never hear about. And he really goes into like just about exploring consciousness and discovering yourself and realizing like, and he's like, imagine if they did like a news story. You got to see it. And then at the end of it, he would say, it's only a ride. And that's what we have to remember about this life. It's fun, it has dips and turns, it takes you for a loop. And sometimes it's really scary, but it's also a lot of fun, and it's often over before you recognize it. But you have to remember that it's only just a ride, and you can choose how you're going to enjoy it. And it sounds like that's what you did when you decided to get sober and you made that change. That's where it sounds like you just got a new lease on your life, and you just realized like, wait, I can just do what I want now. Like, and that's a part of the ride though. That's,
of course,
that's saying, that's instead of going, oh no, like I hate dips and turns, just being like, woo, like.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because you never know when it's happening. What's, I mean, when I got sober, I had no fucking, I don't know what was, I had no intention of even getting sober. I knew things were really bad. I knew my life was bad. I knew I was in some deep shit. You know what I mean? I knew everything was falling apart. I knew that I didn't want to live the way I was living anymore, but I didn't know like, oh, I want to have a sober life. That wasn't where my head was at all. I wanted to get the heat off for a little while. You know what I mean? I think especially with, sobriety, you have to stay sober long enough to where you want to be sober. You know what I mean? At first, you get sober and then you stay sober in fear of consequences. You know what I mean? What's going to happen if I use again? You know what I mean? Then this could happen, or this could happen, or this will happen. And then eventually it becomes, well, I stay sober just because I enjoy the life I have, not because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you switch from fear to love, essentially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My motives go from, fear of that to just love for what I have and wanting to keep it. Then, your whole mindset kind of changes. But you don't really know in the moment. Here's a perfect example, right? My dog had to get surgery on his knee. ACL surgery. He's never been in a cage in his life. He's the best dog ever. He doesn't fucking fuck with anything. He doesn't do anything. He just chills. He's great. I got to put him in this cage. And he looks at me like, dude, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, why are you doing this to me? Yeah. Why would you do this to me? And his brain is too small to understand that I'm doing what's best for him.
Yeah.
All he knows is right now, this sucks.
The betrayal.
You know what I mean? So right now, this sucks, but you don't understand that what's happening right now that might suck is what's better for you in the long run.
Huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But you don't get it.
Yeah.
Your brain is too small. You don't understand. And I'm like, how many things are happening in my life? My brain is too fucking small to understand that even though this hurts right now,
right,
there's a much bigger purpose and there's a much better reason that this is happening. I just don't get it yet.
Yeah.
You know?
That's where you require that ego death, which is something we all struggle with, because that's where you got to kind of hand it over. You just got to realize whatever you hand it over to, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the serenity prayer is something that's common in the
12-step programs.
Yeah, and that's a common thing. And so it is something, regardless of what one's faith is or lack thereof, I think that it does help to have an understanding that I started studying Stoicism. At the beginning of this year, I read a great book on it. I think it's just simply called A Guide to Stoicism. And it was a great overview. And I don't remember it talking about the serenity prayer. For those of you that don't know, it's like, God, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So even if like God is a trigger word for some people, and they're like, well, I don't believe in God, whatever it is, you have to realize that there is something bigger than you going on, and you don't know what's going to happen next, and life goes on. And that's what Stoicism is. It's not religion, but they did it in Greece and Rome, and we hear the term Stoic and we think, it's very serious, grim person, Stoic. Well, Stoicism, actually, you can enjoy life deeply, and also it's not so restrictive either. You can drink, you could do drugs, you could do whatever you want to do. It's just like whatever you do, don't let yourself get out of control. It's not about judging. It's about really just kind of like going back down to like, do no harm, try to avoid. I don't know if
these things are dying.
Okay, cool. But let me know when we've reached the zenith.
Yeah.
Stoicism in a nutshell is just kind of like doing things without trying to infringe upon others, but definitely it's without being selfish. It's definitely self-centered, and just kind of going from there. And then, realizing there's majorly like this, I think they call it a triad. It's like there's things that you have total control over, things you have no control over, things you have some control over. If you have no control over it, then you need to not worry about it, which is what most of us deal with. We often worry about things we have no control over. If you can't, it's easier said than done, but this is why it's a practice that you live through for life. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. If it's literally out of your control, there's nothing you could do.
But in that question, then, so what do I have control over?
Well, depending how philosophical we want to be, because then it talks about what you have total control over. What you do is have control, to go back to what you were saying earlier, back to your train analogy, that you had in that meditation, is like you don't have control over all the outside stimuli that comes in, or the incessant thing in your thoughts. Like you can't stop the thoughts from flowing because that's just how it is.
Yeah, you can't control the input.
You can't do that. But you do have control over what you respond to as opposed to reacting, what you respond to, what you focus on, and then ultimately, output, what you do, input, output. And then, so there's like the three things. You have no control, total control, or some control. And you should, at least within Stoicism, it's suggested that you focus your attention primarily on those things that you have some control over, at least like what your immediate concerns are. Because if you have total control over, it's just kind of flowing naturally. You're doing it. Maybe you need to focus on it heavily, but in terms of things that you need to like fix or deal with, do the things that you admit that you don't have total control, but require some effort from you. If you have no control, it's kind of pointless to wear yourself out over it. And I found that to be somewhat helpful.
Absolutely. I mean, and I know the God thing is a trigger word, and it was for me for a long time too. But in the whole idea of just higher power. So if you say a higher power, whatever, the universe, whatever it is, I think the important thing is that there is something, and it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's some powerful force or flow to the universe or to life or whatever. And the most important thing about it is it's not me. And I don't have control over most fucking things. I have no control over shit that and that's a really good like analogy, is that I don't have control over the input. You know what I mean? But I do have control over the output. What I do with the information I've gathered and the information that gets thrown at me, you know what I mean? You have to have some sort of control over the way you react.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And even though it's difficult, and that's where it comes back to being an artist too. Being an artist and spending time, it's such a weird, and the climate that we're in, where it's sort of become, the more you're hated, the more popular you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so you judge your popularity by how many people dislike you, but it seems like people don't like you, but the numbers are going up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something over here telling you, financially that you're being successful, but emotionally you're being told you're not.
Mm-hmm.
What a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Who else deals with that?
Right.
You know what I mean? And you already have your own mental thing going on that says, write the song. This is a great idea. This is awesome. This is going to fucking just kill it. People are going to love it. This is going to help people, whatever. So then you spend, 2 weeks on it, writing it every day. You go back to it, you tweak it, trying to make it perfect, trying to get your point across, trying to say what you want to say, how you want to say it, which is the hardest thing to do in music.
Mm-hmm.
And then you spend your time, and then you record it, and then you do all this stuff. And about halfway through the process, you're like, this sucks. Your head goes, this is fucking stupid.
Yo.
Why are you wasting your fucking time? So the same thing that told you this is a fucking genius idea is the same thing 2 weeks later that tells you you're a fucking idiot. What are you wasting your time for?
Wow.
You know what I mean? So trying to weave through that, and then having, the outside factors of the responses people have and the hate that people throw out. But the more hate, the more popularity, and the more positive in some sense. It's a fucking mind fuck, dude.
All day.
It's not weird to me that so many artists, especially at a high level, have so many issues, have like so many mental health issues. Deep. How could you not? That's the most insane shit to think about dealing with. I remember when I put out the UFC video. Mm-hmm. It's like the biggest outlet that's ever put my shit out, and I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for the amount of hate that came with that.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? I forgot, you know what I mean? Like the UFC socials are some of the most volatile places in the fucking world.
Pretty aggro community.
You know what I mean? And it just got thrown to the wolves.
Wow. They let you have it.
They let me have it, but I also went up like 10,000 followers. So I was like, what is happening right now? Because I feel like people, it's just that when people hate shit, they're vocal about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People are way less vocal when they like things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're more likely to tell somebody about a bad experience you had at a restaurant than you are about a good experience.
Let's just go to Yelp, You know
what I mean?
Let's just go to that. Or it's got to be like, it's not enough to just simply enjoy it. It has to be like the most life-changing, best thing I've ever seen where I'm super vulnerable, or I hate this.
Yeah, because people expect everything to be good. And so if it is good, all you did was just fulfill their expectation.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if it's bad, then they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This was supposed to be great.
Yeah.
And then they go talk shit about it.
That reminds, I'm not even going to go into it, but you just brought Cat Williams to mind. I used to religiously watch it. To this day, if he puts out a special, I'm watching it as soon as possible. Like,
Yeah.
one of my favorite people. Talking about mental illness, he's a very interesting character because a lot of things he does do come from his mental illness, also drug use, and being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
It's just like, just being with, fame, and also just being a super sharp dude too. Like, there's like, he's made some decisions that people would say are just absolutely stupid. But if you watch his body of work, I mean, the guy is like, got it figured out. It's just sometimes there's, that whole thin line between, genius and insanity.
Yeah.
The more I've watched it, I've always had a deep respect for Cat Williams, especially as a performer and as a philosopher, as an educator. If you watch his stand up, and he always talks, but he does talk about haters. He that was like his thing, and
Yeah.
he kind of gloated in it, and he was kind of like, just kind of took it on. He's like, ladies, if you got 14 haters, you need to figure out how to get the fuck to 16 by the end of this week. He's just talking about, and he's like, if there's anybody in here that ain't got nobody to hate on, well, feel free to hate on me. And everybody's loving it. And you can't be like that all the time because that's like just inviting more toxicity. But I do admire, like, that dude shined. Like, he had a lot of odds against him. And there's a whole lot of things with why he wasn't made for Hollywood. And he was like, you know what? They told me no my whole life. And I'm gonna just keep on shining, keep on grinding. Yeah, he's definitely had some low times and some hard times, but he's an example of kind of, and I'm sure maybe you experienced that. Probably, it's not the macho thing to say I was hurt. We've all been hurt as artists,
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure it probably hurt, but it also probably, like, I booked the whole tour out of spite. And you could say that's not a healthy thing to do, but I was motivated because someone ripped apart one of my albums.
Whatever gets you there, dude. Whatever gets you there.
It was one of the best things I've done, but it took someone telling me that my album that I worked for for like a year was shit.
Yeah.
And thoroughly. It was like a real review. Like, they did like almost every track, and they had new former stuff. And I was like, man, I didn't even put it out or anything. Like, I didn't share it. And it was somebody I like knew too. Like, I respect them for their honesty, but I was like, man, he kind of went really bad on me for no reason. It made me feel, I was angry. I was like, no, it wasn't that. And then within like a day, like, it definitely beat me down. And then next thing I knew, I was like, well, I knew I wanted to go to Seattle, so I'm just going to start contacting everybody I knew. And I just set up this whole tour. And I did it with my homeboy, DJ Rated R. We went all the way up and down West Coast. Some of the best memories I've ever had. But it all came because someone hated. It wasn't just because they criticized me. It was like, I had met this person, and I could tell that they always kind of didn't like me.
Yeah.
And they were waiting for the perfect opportunity.
Did you believe what they said?
I believe that they were like, did I agree with it?
Yeah.
Would you say? In retrospect, I see some valid points, but overall, no. I felt like they went way too far. I did disagree with them. I'd say I was like, it was like a 70-30. At the time, it was probably like 90-10. But like, I probably 70-30 disagree with them, maybe even 65-35. But there were some humbling truths in there, and it wasn't my best work. It was just kind of the way there was just like a personal vendetta.
Yeah, it was malicious.
Yeah, that was like the vibe, man.
Well, there's like, the reason I ask is because I've had some major failures in my career. And the one thing I know I'm good at is failing.
Wow.
And I think if you can become good at that, you're good. Because I've had, certain things I've set up, shows that have failed, songs that didn't do what I thought they were going to do, things that I thought were going to be great that weren't, things like that. And it's, I'll take a day, I'll let it fuck with me. And, the next day I bounce back harder. So if you know how to fail, you have to fail to get to where you're going. If maybe not everybody, but in my experience, I've had to.
Oh, I've definitely.
It's the same thing with writing. Like, I had to write every shitty song I wrote to get to something good. You're sifting for gold. And then maybe that's what the career is altogether, is sifting for gold. And every day you're going to be out there with your fucking pan. You're going to be in the fucking river. You're going to be trying to find some shit. You're going to think you find gold. It looks like gold. It fucking feels like gold. It shines like gold. Everybody tells you, I think that might be gold. And then when you finally get it back and everybody looks at it, you dissect it. It wasn't fucking gold. You wasted your time. Go back to the fucking river. Go back. And then eventually you find it. Even if it's the smallest little piece, you'll find it, but you got to be out there every day searching for it and sifting through the things that look like gold, because it might be and you just didn't know it.
Man.
You know what I mean? And you have to fail. For me, I had to fail to get to where I'm at, and I'm sure I'll fucking do it a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's fine. But it's the only thing is that the climate makes it harder and harder to fail because of how much they will crucify you. For doing anything wrong or, you know, taking a chance.
I'm glad we didn't have social media when I was a kid. And
I can't even imagine.
I'm really glad. And I've talked to other people who grew up without. There was an advantage to just existing, or even like not. You and I have benefited from making ourselves a bit more available online and through other things like that. And our whole, anyone active right now has. But there also was something to be said. I enjoyed the mystery. I liked not knowing.
I did too.
You know?
There was more of a star power mysticism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even when you're talking about, I don't know, any of my, you know, favorite rappers, seeing him in person was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what that dude looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You never saw him. That was the thing.
Yeah.
They were out there, and that was what made you enjoy them even more. Now, I've enjoyed artists where I feel like I know all this stuff about. Tech Nine, perfect example. I've watched a ton of his. I don't follow him on social media or anything, but like, I have, but more so, I've watched as many interviews as I can. There's a documentary. I listen to his stuff like very closely. You know, I feel like he's always just kind of laid it all out on the line. And other people are going back. The two techs, you know, Immortal Technique, even MF Doom, who's very hard to get a hold of at times. When he's not being interviewed by an American, he usually like drops it and just goes off.
Yeah.
Some of his best stuff. And you know, you get to learn about that process. But
well, that being said, where can people find you?
Man, what you can do is check us out. My stuff is Rasar Music, RASAR Music. And that's mainly on when I am around, I'm on Instagram mostly. And there's some stuff on YouTube, but my main project, my love, and the mission, the flagship is the Lique, Lique. You can look us up at the Lique Band, Lique. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube. We have 2 albums. We have probably like 20 different videos. We're on Twitter, and hopefully we'll be performing wherever the people are watching. So.
You guys, anything coming? I know you just did the NPR Tiny Desk.
We just did the Tiny Desk video just came out. Thank you for checking that out, by the way. I think, what are we doing next? It's summertime, so festivals are starting to come around. We're about to start being up in Reno. I'm not sure when this is gonna be out, but we're gonna be out in Reno and Truckee, which are we're gonna be doing several shows over the next few months in that region.
Cool.
And I think I'm trying to figure it out because we got a lot of offers. I think we have something on the East Coast, but we have more shows. We're just getting back into performing. We just finished our On the Record residency, at least as a band. I'm still hosting it on the record. So if you might come through in Las Vegas, and there I am. So
there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Well, go check out Rasar. Check out the Lique on Instagram, Twitter. Follow them if they're in your city. Hit them up. Go check out the music. Go on YouTube. And I'm going to wrap it up for now. I got to pee.
Yeah. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man.
But we definitely got to do this again, man.
Yes.
I'm really glad you came out. I'm really glad we got to do this.
Thank you so much, man.
And click up like this. So for this week, this is I'm Not Sick, but I'm Not Well. And we'll see you guys later.